Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 22nd of October 2014. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, it's an Ubisoft special, a double bill of delusion. Ubisoft parrots the idea that 30 FPS gives a more cinematic feel when excusing the frame rate of Assassin's Creed Unity. And naturally, before the game's release, FarCry 4's Season Pass has been detailed and it includes a PvP multiplayer mode. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. Ubisoft, perhaps more than any other publisher on the planet, has suffered from an acute case of foot-in-mouth disease for years now. A laundry list of controversies has hounded the publisher, and for the most part it was of course of their own making, and the latest one has dropped right on our doorstep. This leads in from an initial statement which Ubisoft then claimed was misinterpreted, and this statement was in regards to the parity between the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One version of Assassin's Creed Unity. Now, in terms of gaming, console parity means that they're aiming for the same experience on both platforms, regardless of the technical capabilities of the platform in question. And it was announced that Assassin's Creed Unity would be locked to 900p 30 FPS on both platforms. Now, this raised a few eyebrows because we've seen many multi-platform games come out up to this point where the resolution has been higher on the PlayStation 4 than the Xbox One, and it was claimed, of course, that that was due to differences in hardware. The platforms themselves are actually very, very similar, but the PlayStation 4 is objectively more powerful. This has resulted in higher native resolutions in some cases, although not all. Now, the problem came along when a producer over at the game by the name of Vincent Pombriand decided to say to Videogamer.com that we decided to lock them at the same specs to avoid all the debates and stuff. The debates and stuff. Oh, what a professional statement from this giant multinational publisher. Yes, debates and stuff. That's a very clear, objective problem that we have within the industry. We'd like to try and reduce the number of debates and stuff. Stuff in particular. Debates we're not too concerned about, but it's the stuff. It's the stuff that's the real problem lurking beneath the surface. Come on. Really? You don't make technical decisions based on what some stupid arsehole on the internet has to say. Oh, there are arguments. There are always arguments. It's video games. You don't base your business decisions on someone complaining on GameFWAX.com. Come off it. That's a ludicrous statement to make. And needless to say, it caused debates and stuff. Oh, yes, the obvious irony of the whole damn situation is that, of course, that statement blew up everything. Ubisoft later claimed that the statement had been misinterpreted, which is a bit odd because, frankly, I can't see a way that it could have been interpreted in any other fashion. They said, to set the record straight, we did not lower the specs for Assassin's Creed Unity to account for any one system over another. And they also claimed that at no point they reduced the ambitions of any SKU. All benefited from the full dedication of all of our available optimization resources to help them reach the level of quality we have today with the core Assassin's Creed Unity experience. Now, this particular discussion has led to controversy and speculation regarding whether or not Ubisoft has deliberately gimped the PlayStation 4 version for the benefit of Microsoft. It's worth noting that Ubisoft is working with Microsoft for Christmas marketing for Assassin's Creed Unity, which leads some fairly circumstantial credence to the idea that they might be attempting to deliberately benefit Microsoft at the expense of Sony. Even if that were not true, it's a little bit strange to see both consoles running at the same resolution and the same frame rate when one is objectively more powerful than the other. I mean, it's not even up for debate at this point. The editor of Digital Foundry, which is the performance-orientated wing of Eurogamer by the name of Rich Ledbetter, commented that the design of the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 makes the decision to lock specs on Assassin's Creed Unity difficult to fathom. Time and again, we've seen evidence that the Xbox One's graphics hardware operates almost like a subset of the PlayStation 4's, which probably isn't surprising when you bear in mind that Sony's GPU is essentially a larger version of Microsoft's. We often see resolution differentials on cutting-edge titles, and even though the difference is frequently less of an issue than the raw numbers suggest, a cleaner presentation overall is obviously welcome. He then went on to say, if there's a technical reason that prevents PlayStation 4 offering a full 1080p presentation or something closer to it compared to Xbox One's 900p, I'm really curious to know what it is. Yeah, and that was only the damn start of it, because Ubisoft simply cannot shut up. That's the worst thing. Like, they keep digging themselves further and further into this hole with ludicrous statements, and I can get behind the idea that 900p is fine. It's okay. If you're going to play on a console, it's not really a big deal. Frankly, you'd think that in the next gen, we would be able to cope with full 1080p, but apparently we still can't do that, which is a little bit weird. We had 1080p games back when the PlayStation 3 first released, and now we're struggling to have them with the PlayStation 4. It's like, what is this invisible wall that we've hit with resolution when it comes to consoles? It's a little bit weird. But I think the most damning thing that a representative of Ubisoft has said is to attempt to push that good old chestnut narrative again, that 30 FPS is actually somehow better for certain genres of games, which is the most ludicrous thing I can imagine. So Alex Amancio, the creative director at Ubisoft, who is responsible for Assassin's Creed Unity, stated that 30 was our goal. It feels more cinematic. 60 is really good for a shooter, action-adventure not so much. It actually feels better for people when it's at 30 FPS. It also lets us push the limits of everything to the maximum. The last part of that statement is the only thing that's true. There is a good reason for companies to design games at 30 FPS on console, because consoles are weak source hardware and they cannot keep up with PCs. That's the reality of the situation. You can't even argue the point. You don't have to blow up this PC master race nonsense. It's just simple numbers. You can't argue with the mathematics behind it. It's more cinematic doesn't mean anything. It is a meaningless buzzword thrown out there. Could you define that for me? I mean, do we want games to be more like movies? Bear in mind, movies run at 24 frames per second, with motion blur on pretty much every frame. Do we actually want that? No, I assume we want video games that play well. And the fundamental misunderstanding, or indeed deliberate lie in regards to this, is that somehow a frame rate which objectively makes the game perform worse and as a result play worse, because let's get this out of there and just say, look, frame rate is not about graphics. Aesthetics are irrelevant. We're talking about how it plays and how responsive the game is, and that's directly tied to its frame rate, and you cannot escape that. And it's this ridiculous lie that somehow it can feel better at a lower frame rate than it would at a higher one. That's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. 60 FPS is really good for a shooter. 60 FPS is really good for everything. And this is the real problem, isn't it? When you are a third-party developer that is directly tied through marketing campaigns to a first-party console manufacturer, you can't come out and say, yeah, we're doing this because it's the only thing these consoles can handle. If you want the proper experience, go play it on PC. They can't say that. They have a marketing deal with Microsoft for Christmas marketing surrounding Unity, and it is a quid pro quo kind of thing. Unity being pushed as an Xbox game. It's such an absurd thing, really. I think this is actually quite recent. The idea that a multi-format title can be pushed as a reason to buy a certain console. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. The only way that you can really do it is by giving exclusive content to one platform, and all that does is screw over the people on the other platform. I fundamentally disapprove of platform-exclusive content like that. It is not the fault of the consumer that they decided to go with one platform over another. Not everybody can afford either a good gaming PC or both the consoles. It's not their fault, and yet you punish them for it for no fault of their own. That is just absolutely ludicrous. And it wasn't only him that said this either, by the way. Nicholas Gurin, the world-level design director for Assassin's Creed Unity, spoke to Tech Radar and said, at Ubisoft for a long time we wanted to push 60 FPS. I don't think it was a good idea because you don't gain all that much from 60 FPS, and it doesn't look like the real thing. It's a bit like the Hobbit movie. It looked really weird. Are you a real game developer, or are you just making it up? Because I'm sorry, no one, and I mean no one, trained in games programming of any description could possibly say that with a straight face. We have been gaming at 60 frames per second for like 20 years! This is not a new thing. This is not like The Hobbit experimenting with 48 frames per second. And The Hobbit had many other problems, by the way. And why are you comparing the two? It's not a movie. It is not a movie. I don't have to control the camera in a movie. I don't have to control characters in a movie. If I had to, I would ask for higher frame rate because I'd be able to control them more accurately. The game would feel more responsive. This ridiculous idea that you don't gain much from 60 FPS is mind-blowingly stupid. It's intellectually dishonest. They know this isn't true. This is PR twaddle. The reason you drop to 30 FPS is because the hardware can't handle it, and there's an expectation that the graphical fidelity of these titles continues to rise over time. And the only way that you can get that is by taking it from other places. Like, you can't make the hardware more powerful. Therein lies the problem with consoles, right? So you have to take it from somewhere else. It's the reason that the Order 1886 is at such a ridiculous resolution that doesn't fit any television on the planet. They claimed cinematic artistic vision. What it really is we have to render less pixels. That means that we have more power to work with. That's how it works. It's simple numbers, simple mathematics. You can't argue with the damn science. This is not a debate, this is a company lying to you. Far be it from me to tell you what you should be offended by, but I would put that on the list of companies treating you like idiots. Far Cry 4's Season Pass has been announced ahead of its November the 18th release date, and it will contain 5 pieces of DLC, one of which will be available on day 1. Of course it will be. The Far Cry 4 Season Pass content contains the Syringe, which is a Day 1 exclusive mission, which will task the player with preventing Pagan Min from retrieving a rare recipe and using it against the Rebellion. Take on the Syringe in either single player or co-op. It also contains Escape from Durgish Prison, which is apparently another piece of co-op content. The Herc Deluxe Pack, which has more Herc in it. Apparently, this guy's probably iconic as well, as is everything else. Get access to 5 missions starring Herc, including Yak Farm, Blood Ruby. I don't know what any of this stuff is. Overrun. Now, this is the one that's very controversial. Players either the Rakshasha or the Golden Path in this new PvP multiplayer mode. Now, as far as we are aware, Far Cry 4 does not include a PvP multiplayer mode on launch, and there is something of an angry murmuring surrounding the Season Pass, the idea that the PvP multiplayer mode will actually require you to buy Season Pass or DLC content in order to play it. Now, I am going to side, perhaps, in this case, with Ubisoft, at least on the subject of the PvP multiplayer mode. I actually don't mind that the PvP multiplayer mode is coming later as part of DLC content. I am not too fussed about the multiplayer modes of Far Cry. I haven't been fussed about it for quite some time, and I would prefer that they focus on the single player and the co-op functionality over yet another PvP game, which is probably not going to be very good. The issue of tacked-on multiplayer has perhaps faded from the spotlight as of late, but in the mid-2000s, tacked-on multiplayer was a big deal, and plenty of games would tack it on for whatever reason, just because it was a tick box that reviewers required or whatever, and the multiplayer mode would just be underdeveloped and it would have taken time away from a good single-player campaign. Now, as of late, we have seen companies like Machine Games go the other direction and say, no, look, no, we're making a single-player game and that's that. And even Far Cry 3 had a tacked-on co-op mode, but it was primarily a single-player shooter, and it did absolutely fine as a direct result of that. I don't care about the PvP multiplayer mode. I don't want development resources dedicated to it, at least not before launch. So as far as I'm concerned, if they want to do PvP and they want to make it a DLC, that's up to them, because frankly, by that point, I'm probably not going to be playing Far Cry 4. Not by the time this comes out. I'll play the game, beat the game, and I'll probably be done with it, move on to the next title. It is unlikely that I'll like it enough to say, God, I wish this had PvP multiplayer. I mean, it sounds like a reasonable idea, but I'm not really too fussed about it, so okay, fine. Put it into the game later down the line. That sounds reasonable to me. What I'm not okay with is the Day 1 DLC. We still apparently have not got over this idea that Season Pass content will be available on Day 1. This is what they want you to do. They wish you to buy a $90 Gold Edition so that you can play this extra content on Day 1. They're upselling you from the very start before you've even played the damn thing, which frankly is ludicrous. Sure, you can buy the Season Pass later down the line, but I am always against Day 1 DLC. And I've stated it many times before as to why that is. You're taking away development time and content from the main release of the game to chop it up and sell it as little extra portions. If you want to develop DLC, do it after the game is out. You can develop whatever you want. It's fine. We don't have to buy it. But all you do when you develop Day 1 DLC that was clearly ready prior to the game coming out is encourage piracy, because people feel ripped off. And should they? I mean, yes, I think they should frankly feel ripped off when they know there's a piece of content that you locked away for extra money. It's on the disc. It's in the installation files, and they're not allowed to play it because of arbitrary reasons. Day 1 DLC is inherently anti-consumer and is fundamentally disrespectful to the people that bought your game on Day 1. And frankly, less and less people are buying games on Day 1, so it seems to me that you probably want to encourage them to do it as opposed to drive them away. Games are already expensive on Day 1, often buggy on Day 1. If they have any type of online component, especially if it's linked to Uplay, the chances are it's not working correctly on day one. There are actually very few benefits to buying a game on day one these days. And it boggles my mind that instead of trying to reward early adopters, companies like Ubisoft attempt to milk them as much as possible. They are the whales, it would seem, of this industry right now. They want you to buy the $90 gold edition on day one, as opposed to someone that waits maybe 3 or 4 months and gets the game 50% off later down the line, or even cheaper. That's the culture that we're currently in, and that's a culture that is being driven hard by these companies that are showing this level of disrespect to their consumers, and they could do something about it. They choose not to, for some reason. Well, what can I say? Right now, it's evidently effective, but frankly, I think if they keep poisoning this well, then eventually it's going to end up coming back to bite them in the arse, as it has so many times before with their ridiculous business decisions. Ubisoft, I just want to like your video games. Why won't you let me? Alright, folks, that wraps me up for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. But before I go, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day. Something nice and new, hot off the presses here for ocremix.org. It is a remix of Mirror's Edge. Not actually a soundtrack that gets remixed all that often, and it should, because it's absolutely phenomenal. The original group that composed the soundtrack, of course, for Mirror's Edge was Solar Fields, and the name of the song is still alive. The name of the remix is Clear Reflections, and it's remixed by Sir Nuts. You can download it in the description below this video, and I'll see you next time.